Hello, Gophers. You are listening to the Go podcast. My name is Morten Vistisen.
And I'm Dominic.
So, what have you been up to this week, Dominic?
You throw me a curveball because normally you're not saying your last name. So you see what I did there? That was good.
Yeah, I figured when we switch, I need to use my last name. Yeah.
Cool.
So, what have you been up to, man?
A couple of interesting things. I will admit that I've discovered the Git work tree this week. So unfortunately, I seems to be continuing my descent to hell. Maybe I don't know how to say that otherwise. So now with this Git tree, I can have like two LLMs working on the front end at the same time. Which I was not really aware of that, to be honest. It's a feature I did not knew about Git. So you can have, a working tree on the same computer that use the same .git instance and whatnot. So it's pretty nice in a sense. LLM aside, just thinking, I don't even know exactly why we had this feature, other than with LLM, it's pretty clear. I would suppose that people would want to quickly jump into another branch without losing what they were doing, even if the stash exists and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure what was the use case when it was built. Certainly these days LLM fills that thing. So it's interesting. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice when you are working in team settings that you don't need to stash your changes and remember your changes and all of those. So you can just. I think it's very good for reviews. Actually, I did a YouTube video on how to run multiple LLMs using Git work trees last summer. Got absolutely flamed in the comments, and now everyone is doing it. So yeah, I did a lot of work with Git work trees. I think it's a nice feature. Normally, when I don't do it right now in my own projects, sometimes I find use cases where it would be nice to not have to stash and forget, because I always forget about the stash. It's so much easier just to have like a work tree for all your features, right? So yeah, like Git work trees. I also discovered Git work trees when I started using LLMs. I also never used them before, so cool setup. But
I think I'm a little bit late, but again, I'm not using LLMs like heavily with what seems to be the usual San Francisco style people using LLMs. So I'm. For me, it just ends at this thing is writing the UI for me, because being a blind programmer, I just cannot do that anymore. So it's
so you're not waking up in the middle of the night to kick it off again and stuff like that.
No, not at all. First of all, I never ever reach any limits whatsoever on small, the smallest plans. So I don't even know what they are doing. So for me, it's very simple. It's just, what, we have this new feature that I've built on the API. Here's the detail that you need. Can you create this page that looks like the other page and whatnot? Make sure you are using the component X and Y and Z and things like that. So that is the extent of my coding agent life, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's great for me. It's just great because, first of all, I'm fatigued to do any kind of UI. I've been building website since 1997. So, at some point I've seen HTML3, I've seen HTML4, HTML5. So yes, I think I've done that enough that for me it's just a nice break. And especially now, these days I just cannot build any kind of good looking UI anyway. So what I like about that is the LLM is able to use Playwright, and now I'm able to ask things like, I have a cited person reported me that this icon is not aligned properly. So please make sure that it is good. It's
Yeah.
that kind of things. So really, really great for me for this.
I think there's certain things where they're just great, because for my web framework and Doodle, I continue to just use LLMs to build out the framework, because it's so easily verifiable if something works, and it's also pulling from experience of the training data from like something like Rails, and I'm just making adjustments to how I want it and how I think it should work, right? So it's like these things where there is a template in a sense that doesn't go too many layers deep. I think they are still great tools. So for example, I'm reworking my CLI, and I'm like, I want to get it closer to how Rails have their CLI, right? And for that, is like, why would I write that myself? I can just have that write it, test it manually, and I feel like, for example, with like React UI code, right, it's probably the same, because there's a lot of like recipes for how to do it.
Oh yeah,
the training data.
I would never have touched React again. The last time I've wrote React was with Roadmap in 2016. That's it. That was the last time, and I swear to myself, never again. I will build because that's the time that I discovered Elm actually. So for me, front end development was done. I was going to use Elm for the rest of my life, and that's it. And it was pretty weird when I was trying to push Elm at some point, at some place where I remember once, at the small company that I was consulting. At some point, we took an external consulting company, and there was this small, what it is, small things that we wanted to, quote unquote, outsource to that company. And I was like, well, we should use Elm because it's just more secure. That there's literally no runtime error and whatnot compared to JavaScript and things like that. Yeah. So they were looking at me as, well, first of all, we don't know Elm, and second of all, nobody's using that. So I was like, well, that's not really a valid reason to discard the technology because you don't know it. It's still the best, the best way to build solid front end at that time. All the build system. It was in the time where the build system was still. I don't think ES build was there yet. Even with that, even Vite and whatnot. This entire ecosystem is, so that's why I don't want to touch that. I just, in my head, I feel good outsourcing all of this to the LLM, and but yeah, it's not. I would have preferred to use something like maybe Lustre with or Gleam, which is an equivalent of Elm, by the way, which is, for me it is where it should be, because now I did have a Sentry monitoring that reports a lot of issues with the UI. Most of them are coming from apparently. From my iOS device and Android device, the browser and the autofill and whatnot. I'm like, what are those? It's not even my code. But yeah, there is so many error at the moment. Well, so many. I'm not used to have that much error reported in a code base. So yeah, JavaScript is fragile. What can we do? It is what it is. But the training data on React is good enough for me to be able to build an application that people seems to want to pay for. So
that's nice. Yeah, it's funny because I also been trying out. I've been using Sentry for React applications before. It's true. I don't know what it is. It's like you blink once and you have like 500 errors that you have to dig through. It's so weird. It's like this is almost a new project. Like where is all these averages coming from?
Yeah, totally. It's it's very, very different. Compared to Go at the moment. I'm just appending standard out instead of error into a file directly from the system D service definition file. And pretty rarely I have things there, to be frank, because of course I'm not logging. It's warning and error and above, warning and above, if you will, in production. So even if I have a couple of info and whatnot, because I'm using Slug and whatnot, and of course I don't want those things in production. So it's pretty limited so far. And yeah.
I mean, I'm starting to look at freelancing contracts again, so I might have to write some React soon. Unfortunately, I don't know. Like looking at the market, I have no idea if it's good or not right now. But there's always there's always some React that sneaks in, even though like whenever I get hired in as a Go developer, I always end up doing some React, and I'm doing a lot of Datastar right now. Basically, all my products with Datastar, and I started to adopt their fat morphing strategy, which is really nice. So we simply just send down the entire page instead of doing like surgically updates to the UI. Just chuck the entire page down and let the idiomorph do the UI updates. That is working really nice. I ran into an issue over the weekend because I changed how I showcase the logs from configuring and provisioning a new server, and they were starting to interact with the. I suspect they were starting to interact with because Datastar uses what's it called, like an event stream. So because the logs was tending down /R was screwing up my fat morphing. So like now I'm just sending back fat morph using HTML. I went out on a little bit of a tangent here, but yeah, I'm really enjoying fat morph. That's what I'm trying to to say. Even though I was digging into a rabbit hole of figuring out why half of my logs were missing. It was because it had like the /R in the log statement.
So is it something that it's recommended to do that now with Datastar, or
Yeah, I mean they do recommend. Like Delaney has this. I can't remember the principle. It's the command read update CR. I can't. There's an acronym for it. So he basically just have like an open connection for a page, and then you just continuously send updates down to that page using FatMorph. I also like there's Anders Murphy, I think his full name is, had done like the billion checkboxes challenge, where he also used Datastar. And I believe that's also how he does it, like FatMorphing it down, and he's sending down a lot of checkboxes. So they did the Tao of Datastar, where it's like just FatMorph your stuff and use the event stream. Right? Yeah, it works really, really well. Even though I'm not using the event stream because I'm just sending down an HTML template because that works better with my Andolal setup. Basically, Temple has fragments, so I can just like make everything into a big fragment and then just create the entire page, grab the fragment, send that down, and then it gets morphed in, and it's really, really nice.
Interesting. Yeah, I would think that it would be more performant just to send a small amount, but because that code run on the client, so it's JavaScript that is doing the diff and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So wow, I'm very surprised that receiving a huge amount of HTML and diffing that is because from what you seems to say, it's as fast as just sending a small piece. Because when I use Datastar, and what I was doing was mainly just having my handler return just the piece that was changing. So let's say I have a button and the user click on that, and I want to show a message during there is some processing. I was just going to send this div, this small message, not the entire page.
That's also how I've done it for a long time. And then now, because they talk a lot, like both Ben and Delaney, they talk a lot about the fat morph. So I wanted to explore it, right? And it seems to work really, really great. I'm still trying to figure out when I would use the different kinds of approaches. So, for example, whenever I've started, whenever I send down like a flash or a toast message, instead of adding it to the cookies, if I don't need to redirect, I don't add it to the cookie, right? But if I just want to show like an update message, I just send that down, append it to the diff that has the ID. So there I just send down the diff, the small diff, right? But for like the server, so when I create a new server, you give it a name, you provide an SSH port, you provide an API key, then you select the size, and then you get thrown into a page where I just continuously pull for updates because everything is just running in a background job. And that is just taking the entire entirety of the view of the page, so it doesn't take it basically renders out the entire thing and then takes everything that's not the sidebar, the top bar, the footer. It's just a thing in place, right? And just send that down. And that ended up containing a lot of, quote unquote, a lot of log statements, around 200, 250 right now. And I haven't done measurements, so if I want to say something concrete, I should do measurements, right? But there's no, it's not like it feels slow or doesn't work, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And also because it makes the whole thing easier to reason about, because then I just create like a resource view that has like all the data it needs, and then provide it with like a render method. And then add like a fragment that's just, instead of being the fragment in tradition, like fragments how you think of them in HTMX is like how you and me just talked about them, right? Like little pieces of the UI that you would then set down, like the out of band swaps. So it just becomes a big fragment that contains the meat of the view or the page. Chuck that down. Let Datastar do its magic with, I think it's idiomorph, something like that. That is really, really fast. Yeah.
Nice.
So I really like it. Yeah.
Okay. That's that's pretty great. I'm wondering the other day I was wondering if what it would have liked if I were to use Datastar instead of React, to be frank. I'm because as someone that don't want to touch the UI at all, I did a small experiment, and the LLM was not as good as writing React.
It does hallucinate
a little bit. It
was
was not producing interesting code to my liking, and now I would have to live with that code, because now there's a lot of code that live in the Go side, and I don't want the LLM on that side, believe me.
Yeah.
So that's mainly why I decided, and Delaney is on the Go podcast channel, and he was not really understanding why I was not using, not really understanding, but he was really pushing hard, and I was like, well, no, it's not. I'm not saying that Datastar would not work for what I want to build. I'm just saying that at the moment I don't want to write any UI code, and what it is produced by the LLM is not to my quality standard. So I preferred to let it go inside a React application, which I hopefully will never have to open in my life.
Yeah,
to be seen.
It's true. I've been of the opinion for a long time that I think 7 out of 10 applications should not use React, even though they probably 9 out of 10 uses React, right? Yeah. But there are, and with the tools like Datastar, like HTMX, like Hotwire, Livewire, I think it is in Laravel country. Those are more than enough. But again, as you say, if you need to use an LLM for whatever reasons, right? Like, no. I would also, because I have tried with my framework to make LLMs use Datastar, and it's not great. It's not good. It hallucinates like attributes, and no.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, because the last two thing I built, I used Datastar actually, and I was still producing UI at the moment. So when I'm so that's pretty different. It would not even be a question if I were to write the HTML myself, if you will. So, but again, that's not. But that's still pretty nice. A very nice way of building application in a sense.
Yeah. I'm considering playing around with certain pages. Like, for example, I have a page for an environment where I show logs, I show health status in a graph, I show deployments. Or like I'm exploring adding like a data interval for like 5 seconds, and then every 5 seconds it just pings an update and morphs it in. So I don't have to even think about specific pages. I kind of just have to build the page and send down all the data, and then showcase whatever is open depending on so I use a signal. I have tabs, and then I can show like the overview, the secrets, the deployments, and all of those kind of things. So just have like that be controlled, and then just pull all that, like every 5 seconds, just pull it, and then I get like live updating UIs. So that is gonna be the next step for me to explore with it. But I'm just I'm fanboying with Datastar. It's really nice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great. Yeah, it's in a sense our Phoenix Live View, if you know that environment, Elixir and whatnot, Phoenix.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like that, not at all in terms of similar way to program this thing, but the results are kind of the same. So it's having all the code in one environment is kind of overrated, I think. The need, especially when you're not a huge team, so you don't really need to split that. When you're a huge team and you have a dedicated front end team, there's not much. And I'm really wondering if what it is like to be in a place where there is Gophers that would let front end people come and play with the Go code, because now they would like to use Datastar and whatnot. So I'd be curious to know how it goes, or if it's smooth for a quote unquote front end developer to be able to work in that environment, because it's not really what they are used to do and things like that. So
it's true, but also I think when you move to that model of just adopting hypermedia, you don't have these generalized APIs, right? So whenever you make a changes, you see the effect of the change immediately. So I would assume that it would probably go quite well. I've worked in so many teams where you have like front end, back end, and full stack in between, right? And then we have this quote unquote RESTful or JSON API that suddenly becomes generalized, and then something is used in 5 different places, and then it's so difficult to make changes in that environment, and you really need to have the scale to justify that workflow or that setup, because for again, I think 7 out of 10 applications would be fine with just MVC, chuck down some HTML, whatever you want to do for styling, and then you don't have to do this like dance of making sure that you didn't break something else because you remove or add a field to an API endpoint. You know exactly what breaks, right, when you have this setup. And for, I don't know, like Basecamp, again, those 37 signals, they have 80 developers, and everyone is working together with a designer, and they seem to be quite productive up to that scale. As of course there is like a certain limit to how many people can do that on like a code base, and at one point it becomes more about team size than it does of actually technological choices, right? But yeah, I will keep banging this drum for the rest of my career, right? Come on, like build sensible applications.
Totally. Yeah. Nice. I also discovered something else regarding the my setup, my deployment setup. I was looking at how could I do the minimal. What could I do minimally to have like a sort of quote unquote a blue green deployment without having to have another system D with another port and whatnot. So there's two nice option which I was not aware because I did not really use Caddy before. I'm an Nginx old timer, if you will. So there's two LB option. There's something like a retry or something like that, and there's which I don't recall now. Basically, it's when let's say when I restart. So my deployment, first of all, my deployment is very simple. I just SSH the binary into the machine. I SSH now. I SCP the binary into to the machine. I SSH there. Do a couple of backups because I just copy the last binary and just in case something weird happened and restart the service. So there's this small, tiny delay between the restart. Of course I have graceful shutdown and whatnot of the binary. So technically all the connections that are still active should terminate before the process terminate. But there is still this delay before it starts. So Caddy has this option to say, you know what, if the reverse proxy caught some kind of error, let's wait, let's add some buffer and just delay the request for a couple of milliseconds and whatnot. So that is pretty nice. So technically at this moment with the simple setup that I have, I should not have any downtime. And when I say downtime, it's just that famous request that would be it when the system D is restarting, which takes like I don't even know, probably less than 1 second. So I was pretty happy to have this option. To be frank, it's not of course it's not really. Well, I was going to say it's not going to work when I would have multiple instances, but yeah, it would still work. So yeah, well, I was happy to find that, to be frank, because now that there's real orders at the moment in the system, and I did not want it to have any kind of even the smallest downtime possible.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, I use two systemd services for deploy create. So always, whenever we have blue green, I create two, spin up, graceful shutdown, switch the traffic, and then that's the way to go. I've been looking very hard to have only one systemd service. Because my problem is I also store secrets and I like encrypt them and all that. But I cannot let people define a port anymore, because how are you gonna define? You could technically define port 1 and port 2, but then how would you get that into the application, right? So I kind of have to change the value of the port behind the scenes. That's fine. This is just like you need to tell people, but I really wanted to not have to do that. So it would be nice if people could actually define an env variable with the port, right? But it's mainly an issue with is a thing when you do binary deployments, because for Dockerized containerized deployments, I can simply just pick a random port on the system and then port to whatever the application port is, right? So that is much easier, because I don't need to ask the user for two ports. I just need to ask them like whatever my guy, whatever you want to listen on, I'll figure it out for you, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I don't think it qualified to be a blue green. What I'm talking about, it's just before this. It's just the step before having a real blue green deployment. So I'm just ensuring that there's no downtime. But yeah, of course, I think the two port and the two systemd. You talked about that last week. Actually, I was. It's interesting because I often come back to some things that we are discussing after the fact, and I was that was that. So maybe I should try to, but to have a blue green deployment. But I don't think I need that for the moment.
No,
So
no, maybe not. I'm also working on like what is it called? I'm not open sourcing. I am source available in the operator that runs on the server, right? So you might be able to just pick the code from there.
Nice.
Because I have like the self-updating binaries for the create operator API for itself, and it uses some of the same for the binary deployment. So just create a backup, switch in the new binary with the same name, send spin that up, verify it is running, send the kill signal, and then switch traffic, right? So
nice.
It works quite nice. And then there's of course all the plumbing around keeping track of the state of what is running, what is not running, start, stopping. But I really like it. It's so simple. It works. I have a nice way. You like just use the logs from the systemd service. It's you get so much of the way to what you would want from like a productionized infrastructure system without not too much work. Then of course there comes all the reliability and checking and updating and maintenance, right? But yeah, it's a really cool setup with just having binaries and systemd, and your life is peaceful and easy.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not disliking maintaining servers and whatnot. So I was using platform as a service before and things like that, and I know that you're not really building that, but I was looking at the product that you're building the other day, and I was like, maybe it could be an idea that could I try that at some point to just liberate me a little bit from having to think about maintaining and whatnot. What about the hosts updates and whatnot of the OS, and do you have anything regarding that? Because that when we talked about Kamal the other day, it was something that you mentioned that Kamal basically just do the deployment, the initial deployment and whatnot. So what about your product in regards of the long-term maintainability of the host machine?
First of all, if you want to give it a go, please tell me. I will create you an account and get you set up. Always looking for feedback. But what I do is the create operator or the operator binary agent, whatever you want to call it, the things that runs on the server, right, has least privilege set up for what they can do on the server. But what they can do is that they can check for updates and they can apply updates, and then I continuously in the background run a health check on the, let's say, server, but it's technically the operator. I also store metrics for like uptime and stuff like that through Node Exporter, but it will check, is there any updates? Does these updates require a reboot? If they do not, apply them, and then it will simply just apply those. So I'm still building it into the UI because I used to have it, and then I did a lot of refactoring, so I need to get it in. But the core logic of checking for an update on the host system, applying it is there, and it is allowed to do that.
Nice.
So now it's the whole, if it needs to reboot, I need to do a couple of things. Because I don't want Caddy to store anything on the server. I want that to be stored in my database. Now I'm gonna make Caddy's configurable so that you technically could just tell it to store all the route from the API on the server. But I would like to not store anything on the server that I can store elsewhere. So for reboot, whenever we reboot, we restart the create operator. It will then check the Caddy API for its own route. If it doesn't exist, it will auto create it, and then we have some way to communicate with the server again. But then again, you also would need to have. I will need to tell them about all the other routes that it needs to route to, all the applications it needs to start, and do all of those kind of things. Because I currently don't auto restart the systemd service for applications, because I want the user to be able to start, stop, and restart the applications, right? So a long story here is that everything that is not a reboot required is easily done. The reboot stuff, I need to figure out, like, how do I actually want to do it? Because you could argue that you also maybe I want to spin up another server for the user, and then route traffic to that server while we're updating that server, or have required them to have the multiple servers set up. I don't really know.
So is your system already ready to boot like new instance, on demand? Like what I'm trying to say. So let's say I expect some traffic next week. So I would like to bump my instance number to 2, for example, and after that just return to 1. Is it something that is easily doable?
Technically, yes. So the mental model I have is you have an application has environments, and an environment has multiple targets, or it has one or more targets, right? So if you expect more traffic, you could provision and configure a new server, add that server as a target to that environment, and then just deploy. And then the operator on the server will figure out, has this been deployed before? If it has not, then it will create the services and everything. If it has, it just updates the thing, right? So you could quite easily get it up and running on another server. Now, the load balancing is where I'm leaving it up to the user. Still, we had Pasha on with... I'm sorry, I forget the product. On Cloud, yeah. Where he talked about like the poor man's load balancing, right? So you could technically just add another entry into Cloudflare with that new IP to that domain. You should be good to go.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
What could be cool long term, because I have the data on how much CPU, how much memory, how much storage is run on customer server. So I could technically create a feature where all of this happens behind the scenes. So you get the managed infrastructure, but on your own infrastructure, right? And I think that could be quite cool, just to say like, okay, if my, I don't know, CPU, memory, whatever, gets above this for so much time, recreate this, we spin up another server for these environments, right? And then everything could happen behind the scenes. I think the only thing I really need to figure out is I would like to do load balancing for the customer.
It should probably be its own server, and now this server is dispatching the other. What about the TLS certificate? So if it's Cloudflare that would do the load balancing, and I think I asked that to Pasha as well. But do you have an idea? So are the two caddy share the entire config and also the TLS certificate files and whatnot?
I'm actually not sure yet, because I know when you do the setup I have to set my SSL settings on Cloudflare to full, I think it is.
Oh,
I can't remember the default.
It's Cloudflare that handles the TLS and check. Oh, okay.
So caddy generates the certificate, right? But there is something settings on Cloudflare, because I'm also exploring how I could add a domain name for new environments for new customers, because you want the experience to be super smooth, super fast. Here is your application deployed on this domain. And for that, I have also explored to do like another server that will route the request through with I can't remember the name, something certificate through Cloudflare, and then over to the customer server. So that might be a way to do it. Maybe I should build something on top of Cloudflare's load balancer. It could also be use their geographical, but again, like you don't want too many jumps, right? So yeah, I don't really.
Yeah.
I think there's other tasks to tackle first. For example, the databases stuff that we talked about last week as well. Notification systems also, because now I have health check. Like how should I notify you? If, like I can quickly just spin up like a thing to send an email like, hey, shit went sideways, bro. Or also
CPU
for like deployment
is taxing. Yeah. Sure.
So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to do with it, and I'm slowly gonna be adding those over the coming months.
Nice.
Yeah. And just before we jumped on this call, I found another project where they basically are building the same thing but only on AWS, so there's only Docker, it's only AWS, but it's self-hostable, and their UI looks so cool.
That's interesting. So why only AWS? I mean that is strange to me that at some point you would limit yourself with such product, because I mean that is the beauty of that kind of product, is that I can choose where I want to host the server. So because Amazon is already pretty well. I don't know. There's probably a lot of tool there that would help me launch a SaaS or any kind of web server in their infra already. So I understand that.
Yeah,
it's complicated and whatnot, but yeah, it's I don't know.
I don't really know, because I looked at it very fast, and he's basically doing he's taking ECS with ALB. I'm using a lot of Elastic Container Service with. What is ALB? Load balancing something. I can't remember what the A is for. Automatic load balancing, maybe. This is basically what he's taking integrating with
so he's rebuilding like Beanstalk from AWS in a sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I love ECS. If money was not a problem and I could just burn, I would use ECS all the time. I think it's really cool, cool product.
Why is that?
If you containerize your applications, it's very easy to have like a cluster of services running with dependencies. I'm also gonna copy some of that to deploy Quake with. I call it a sidecar, but I can't remember what ECS call it. It's been a while, but basically, let's say I have my Go API and I have something like RiverQueue that runs the background job. I could split those two up to have like the API running and then the background worker running, so that the API simply just inserts the job and something else processes the job. If you want to do that right, doing that whole setup with ECS is really nice, and you can easily scale up the number of instances you have of the worker or the API and in what regions are it, and it's very nice if you need that kind of scale.
Yeah. Which is that's the thing. A lot of people are probably using that, but they might not even need that. So that's another point.
Yeah, but because also you end up with. I try to do it like as cheap as possible, but you still end up with like $35-$50 just to get started at maybe you get like a Fargate or something like that. Use the Fargate service and you get like a quarter of a CPU, because a lot of the time when you want this setup, you also want proper networking. So you want everything to happen in like a private network where you can only reach out and not like and you need a NAT gateway and you blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden you spend $100 just, for something very simple. Which again, $100 is not a lot. I know big companies, but
that's
again, my thesis is spend $100 on Hetzner and you have staging, you have production, you have review environment, you have everything until you get to like a lot of users.
And you probably have a virtual private network as well for free.
Yeah,
Yeah, like digital.
It's built in Hetzner. I'm adding the actually again through Pasha with his I forget the name. I'm really bad at remembering names right now. Yeah, not on cloud included something to create like private net WireGuard. That's the name. WireGuard, right? Yeah. So you don't even need to be in the same provider. You can technically have 3 different providers that all have a private network.
That's cool.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Same. This is what it's used at the Go product that do tunneling and whatnot.
Tail scale.
Yeah, tail scales. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is a nice product, by the way.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah,
it's starting to get really toasty here in Barcelona. So I am starting to wonder if I need a cloud subscription or an OpenAI subscription, so I can just work from the beach. and for that, I would need Tailscale. Just Tailscale into my desktop at home.
Oh yeah, sure.
Kick everything off. Enjoy the beach.
Wow. Yeah.
I would of course never do that. Yeah.
No, sure.
Yeah, that is definitely the life. Yeah, it's really cool. That's a cool product.
You can do that, but only after you have this you completed the freelance contracting, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Cool. Well, that's mostly that for me. It was pretty relaxed, even though the customer finally had the opening day, if you will. Yeah. 80,000 people on Facebook, translated into X amount of thousand of orders, which I'm not really I cannot really say because it's not me to say. It was very, very nice too. So yeah, bug free, man. This piece is working.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Yeah, it was great, and they mentioned the product as well. So, well, there's a couple of people that open accounts. So I think we are. Yeah,
congratulations! It's happening. It's growing.
It's not paying customers or whatnot. So I need to reach out. So I don't have any onboarding messaging at the moment. So this is what I'm working on today. So I will make sure that whenever someone is creating an account, they will be part of a small, very tiny sequence of 4 or 5 emails. Do you want to have a demo with us? And the next day or 2 days after that, it will talk about some important feature that they would help them getting started. So if you're not doing that for your product and you're building product, you should do that right away. This is, forget the feature, forget everything else. You need to have some kind of onboarding process with the new customer. So this is what I'm doing. I will have something to send a one-time emails to users that already created an account. So nice. So I will ask if they want to to schedule a demo and whatnot. This is my wife that is doing the demo. I'm not able to share screen myself. I cannot really show any kind of product myself. So I'm pretty lucky at the moment. So we like I was saying, we have this ambassador / affiliate program. So whenever anyone is signing up after a demo, so she do have that. So we will try to find more of these agencies. So I really think that this is the playbook for me for now, to find people that do already have, like I was saying last week, relationship with with their clients already that could benefit from using the platform, and they would get a 20% on the subscription. So that is the playbook. It's going nicely. But yes, if you think about that for your product as well. But I'm talking in general to listeners. If you build product, just build yourself a small onboarding. I personally hate those. I hate to receive emails when I'm signing up at a place. But if you are like me, sometimes what what you like and don't like isn't what people are also liking and don't want. I hate receiving email, but you still need to send them to make sure that new signups knows what to do next. This is pretty important, because otherwise they will sign up, they will look at the app a couple of minutes and just be gone because something happened in their life, and now they might just never return. Especially if they did not have this aha moment, which for your application is you should ensure that once they sign up, they have a real clear path to deploying an application, because that's basically what they are doing in your product.
Yeah.
So if you make sure that you do some kind of hand holding, making sure that there's no blockers for them. I mean, you might not even need email yourself, but for you it might be more in app, if you will. I believe what you could do to ensure that a new person coming in do have the success, because you are lucky, because your aha moment can be pretty quick, from what I understand. Once they connect their their DigitalOcean or Elsner, whatever, once they connect that, they are pretty close to having an app deployed.
Yeah, it's true. I've been toying with it. How I could do the onboarding flow, because so either I will just show like first time you log in, show like a dialogue with the steps. I could also just kind of quote unquote force them through like the flow, so create like a customized step. Could also be a way to go. Yeah, it's definitely something that's top of mind.
Oh yeah, it needs to be tweaked much. The first assumption is not always the best and things like that. So and you might need to have a couple of different path and whatnot, because not everyone is going to understand the same. Once you arrive at a new product, people look at places differently and whatnot. So I mean, this is interesting.
Yeah, but I also think there's one of like those things where right now I'm kind of requiring people that want to try it to send me an email, and then there will be some hand holding just to get the experience of where is the frustrations and where what doesn't make sense in the UI, right? And then once you get those smoothened out, I think building a proper onboarding flow becomes a bit more feasible. Because I'm naming is probably a big thing. Like, is naming good? Is that clear? Because you do, like, when you log in, you just land at a page where it says create a server. You create a server, you get all the information about your server, the logs, the stats, whatever. And then, of course, you can click into in the sidebar there is application. You can click create new. You get like a application wizard with 3 steps. So it sort of guides you there, but I think it's more like kind of like making that process very smooth. So there's not really any doubts when you get into the product. Yeah.
But at least you have a very short path to this moment where they will see the benefits. It's a nicer product. Mine is a little bit longer to get some kind of value.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also you are like with it, like they still need to connect and secrets. Like there's still It is technically 2 things, but it is a lot more other things, right? And I still need to deal with the custom domain, because I think that's also going to be a blocker for people if they're not really, depending on the customer type. I'm not sure how confident they would be with adding DNS settings, because if I could just let that be its own thing, and then they can add like a quote unquote custom domain later, which is their own domain, then the process is as smooth as possible, right?
Would you be able to have this is what I'm doing with my product? I have a subdomain directly provisioned for a new user. So could you do that temporarily so they could not bother with any DNS at this moment, just deploy and just access the application via your subdomain?
Kind of. I'm debating what to do, because the easy route would be simply to just, because I know the customer's IP address, right? So I can just take that IP address and add an entry in my Cloudflare portal, which could work up to a certain amount of domains, because there is a limit to how many DNS records you can have.
But can you not have...
I think we are reconnecting. I don't know. Is it my internet or if it's Dom's internet that's out?
Ooh, really?
If not,
is the
Dom
recording
is reconnecting.
Okay, and we are back. So apparently, probably my internet connection cut. So I think that will be the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And we will have some editing to do.
I'll finish explaining the custom domain setup stuff next week, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can talk about that next week. But yeah,
the spoiler is either enterprise. I can't speak English right now. Enterprise plan on Cloudflare, or it's Route 53 on AWS.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's what I was going to suggest. Why would you not have a small server that you have a wildcard in Cloudflare that sends all the traffic there, and it just redirect to the proper IP? It's just to have some temporary way for the user to have that thing does not need to scale and whatnot, and it's just to have some demo and whatnot. So
yeah,
you could do that.
The problem is SSL and HTTPS.
Why is that?
I need to send it. Like I need to forward the traffic, and I couldn't make it work because the SSL certificate was not being generated and it was not being sent through. That was why I was looking into doing the manually. I can't remember what it's called. You can generate something on Cloudflare, like an SSL certificate, that you can then use, and then it would get HTTPS set up.
But you could just have Caddy on that box and have the traffic just do the proxy to the server IP of the customer. This is what I'm doing. Basically, you could even do the on demand thing. And now, when you have a new customer that call xyz.deploycreate.com, whatever, this box is looking at, is this thing exist? And yes, then provision the TLS, and this is the IP of the customer. And I don't know, you could do a reverse proxy there, potentially.
So you would do because I did explore this setup and I couldn't make it work without adding the SSL certificate through Cloudflare.
But if you do a pass through directly on Cloudflare, so Cloudflare has nothing to do with the TLS. So you have an option to say it's just it's just going to reroute all so you will lose the all the Cloudflare what it is offering as protection and whatnot, but you don't really care for that, since it's just a small preview. So Cloudflare directly send all the traffic to that box. That box handle the TLS, and it do the reverse proxy to the IP address.
Yeah, that was what I was doing, and I couldn't make it work. But okay. I'm likely holding it wrong. That is I was doing a lot of things there, so maybe I just need to revisit that setup and pick your brain a little bit more about it.
Maybe between that box and the server IP, maybe that was a problem, because now the other server also wants to register or to handle the TLS. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
I can't remember. I remember I was doing something like this and I had issues, but again, I didn't. I should spend some more time on it, because that would be the ideal setup, right? Because then I don't need to worry about all the other elements. Everything would go through one of my servers, that is fine as well, because how long are you going to use something called green, blue, apple at deployquest.com or whatever the name is, like the code name, right? So it would be, I would love the setup. That would be the perfect, because you would have customers add another domain once they want to actually serve traffic on there.
Exactly.
Like
yeah, that could. Yeah, you might want to revisit if it's at all possible. I mean, the onboarding would be pretty smooth. The only blockers is having them connecting their DigitalOcean account and whatnot. So that if you're not going to do that, then why are you signing up for deploy crate? So I mean, that could be that could be an option if it's possible. I don't know. It seems to me that it should work, but maybe
it should work. I have the same feeling, and I think it's just because I didn't poke it enough and simply just decided to spend my time other ways. So definitely need to revisit that. That's a good point, man. You do this every episode now. You just need to tell me to stick to things like you did with Postgres, and then stuff works. Stop getting fancy.
I'm better at saying that than doing that myself. So do what I say, not what I do, I guess. But that's not really true. I'm pretty rigorous this time. So I'm trying. I even open the social account. I have done some marketing, small shorts this week. I don't know. I'm trying harder this time.
Nice.
We'll see. All right, Morten. So hopefully we have some news next week regarding all of this.
All the projects.
Yep.
Cool, man.
Very cool. All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.